Thank you, Kent. Thank you, everyone. Professor Easterly, thank you so much for kindly sharing the stage on such an important and wonderful evening, and congratulations to you. I would greatly prefer, of course, to be sitting in the audience and enjoying the remarks that Steve would have given on this occasion. But I'm honored to have been asked to say a few words tonight about his work and about his legacy. Steve was deeply grateful to receive the Julian Simon Award last year, and he was particularly pleased that he received the award in recognition of his work as an economic educator. One of his favorite stories to tell, I heard it more than once, was about the time that he, Peter Betke, and Dave Prochitko, as graduate students, cornered Julian Simon on a boat trip. I think they were at an MPS meeting, and they grilled him about his work. Simon apparently bore up graciously under the three-pronged attack from these impressively self-assured graduate students. Now, I don't know for certain if Steve's approach to economic education was born on that boat trip, but it certainly was a part of it, along with the genial and challenging education he received from economists like Don Lavoie, Peter Lewin, and Don Boudreau. I know that Steve's approach as a teacher was to welcome, always, approaches from students, from other faculty, and from random strangers on the street who recognized him from his extraordinarily active and interesting Facebook presence or his many media appearances. Every interaction was an opportunity to talk about economics, to recommend a book, to make a connection. Now, because he spent much of his career teaching at a small liberal arts college with no graduate program, Steve got some static over the years from the occasional academic who felt that success and influence are measured only in the number of graduate students one has. But that never bothered Steve. He was a firm believer in the importance of teaching undergraduate economics well and with enthusiasm. He often quoted Paul Hayne as saying, "Teach the principles of economics class as if it will be the last class in economics your student will ever have, and it will turn out to be the first of many." And the thousands of undergraduates who came through Steve's classrooms in his 28 years at St. Lawrence and his 4 years at Ball State would agree that this is exactly what he did. Thousands of students, maybe hundreds of thousands, when you figure in his books, his articles, his radio and television appearances, his blogging, his Facebook page, formed their earliest thoughts on economics because of Steve. And they formed some of their earliest opinions about economists because of his warmth, his humor, and his approachability, and because of his faith in them as thoughtful, creative people, Julian Simon's ultimate resource. Steve's friends at the Institute for Liberal Studies in Canada remember that he cheerfully lectured for their first conference for free. Economists for free. And even paid for his own hotel room to help the fledgling organization get started. His last lecture for them was a Zoom lecture during the pandemic. He stayed up well past his usual bedtime to lecture on British Columbia time from Indianapolis. Those of us in our 50s know what a sign of commitment that is. Some of the last things Steve did before his final hospital stay were to make sure that a young student of his secured a summer internship and to schedule a coffee date with another. When I look for examples of what Steve was like as a teacher, I think about his books, of course, and his formal scholarship, as well as the more lighthearted work that he and I did together on topics like zombies and the broken window fallacy and erotic poetry about early modern coinage crises. Ask me at the bar afterwards. But more than that, I think about Steve's work for wider and more general audiences. Whether he was using my hatred of olives as an example for why collective choice is problematic, whether he was explaining why the demise of Sears Roebuck was good news for the US economy, or probably most famously, digging into the ways that the response to Hurricane Katrina showed the strengths of private enterprise and the weakness of government response. Everything was a teaching tool, a teachable moment, even cancer. In 2019, at EconLog, in a discussion of sunk costs, he wrote, I've struggled with this in the last few months. Just after getting married and starting a wonderful new job, I received a cancer diagnosis. I want to be so angry, but every time I feel myself getting angry, I remind myself that all the anger in the world doesn't turn back time or stop cancer cells from dividing and growing. The fact that I have multiple myeloma for decision-making purposes is importantly like a sunk cost. To be consumed by anger at my disease would be to fall for the fallacy that sunk costs matter. There's more to life than economics, but this lesson from economics, that in deciding what we should do next, the past is irrelevant because we can't change it, applies to all human choice. Taking it seriously can help us not only make better decisions, but also recognize that however good it feels, reacting with anger or frustration to unfortunate events doesn't affect the one thing we can change, the future. Pete Betke once told Steve, "There's a lot of consumption in your production." Steve took that as a life motto. He loved what he did, and to the end, he did what he loved. I don't know what Steve would have said if he had been able to be here tonight, but I will take my best stab at a Horwitzian conclusion. Julian Simon taught us all that humans are the ultimate resource, and that we are our greatest reason for optimism. Steve shared that knowledge daily with those who he taught. It's a noble legacy and a powerful one. Like Steve, like Julian Simon, like Bill Easterly, we are all of us teachers, whether we're in the classroom or not. So teach well. Teach with a sense of responsibility to your students and to your subject. And teach with joy. And may there always be a great deal of consumption in your production. Thank you.